Especially for those of you who are going to YCS Sacramento. You guys don't want to get screwed over by the rules, or rather the improper use of the rules, and bubble out of the event. You know, this next 10 to 15 minutes could save you your entire YCS run, get yourself into that top cut, and that's what we're here for. Today's rulings are all about Tenpai and Phantom of Yubel. These are the ones that actually came up with the past weekend of OTS Store Championships, where I've experienced myself. Luckily, didn't screw me over, and I want to pass that knowledge up to you. And I'm even going to throw in a little bit of added bonus of things that people have done illegally, and just to watch out for, because they are definitely game stealing, and it would be like the moment where you would scoop up your cards and there's no going back because it became an accepted game state. All right, so make sure you guys hit that like button, hit subscribe, ding the notification bell. I got 4 rulings for you, but before I save your YCS run, I want to save you some time in the kitchen with today's sponsor, Factor 75. Make the most of the remaining days of summer. You know, don't like being in the kitchen, can't figure out what to eat? Then get Factor. They've got chef-prepared meals ready in 2 minutes. And dodge that trap card of overpriced takeouts and line up your meal combo with success with Factor. You know, chef-crafted, restaurant-quality meals delivered straight to your door. Just heat and eat. You know my lifestyle. I'm just like super overworked. 16 hours a day just working away the day job, and then another 4 to 6 just overworking myself on this YouTube channel. I need something tasty to eat, and none of that fast food junk is gonna cut it. And Factor's got that premium ingredient in their meals: filet mignon, truffle butter, broccolini. You know, that stuff is the good stuff, so don't miss out. Save now. Use my link down in the description or scan the QR code in the front. Save 50% off your first order and 20% off of your subsequent months. And thank you, Factor, for sponsoring this video. Ruling number 1, it's going to be Tenpai Dragon Slash. So, as per usual, we're going to go through the scenario, the conflict, and how you would deal with the conflict. Because the conflict is a very human nature thing when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's about the interaction between two players and how they would argue. And the mentality behind that is kind of what's key, explaining why some people would run into certain misplays, like how the opponent was so confident about their answer. But anyways, this is Tenpai Dragon Slash. So we are currently in the battle phase, and as you can see, there is a Samurai Destroyer on the field. On the opposing side, there is a Spirit of Yubel with a Nightmare Pain. Okay, and so Pydra has already attacked, Chandra already attacked, so Chandra declared the attack, and that summoned out the Pydra. Pydra on summon has grabbed the Sangen Kaiman into hand, and on the attack declaration of Pydra, they immediately just synchroed away those monsters into the Samurai Destroyer. And here we are, player A declares an attack with the Samurai Destroyer, and in response to that attack, player A also activates Sangen Kaiman that they added from the Pydra. And due to Samurai Destroyer's effect, the opponent's monster has its effect negated and also cannot respond to anything while the Samurai Destroyer is battling, to be more specific. So on resolution, player A adds and summons out Fadra onto the field, and a new chain occurs. Fadra activates its effect and it targets Chandra. Player B attempts to activate and chain Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion, and this is the conflict part. The conflict now states, hey, player A says, you can't do that, my samurai is attacking. Then player B says, well, you activated a different card now. You activated your Sangen Kaiman now, so your samurai isn't really attacking anymore. The last thing that happened was the activation of Kaiman. And so they call a judge, and that's where you come in. You have 5 seconds to break down this scenario and give them an appropriate answer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So who was right? Who is wrong? Well, to tell you the truth, the person who activated the Ghost Bell is in the wrong, because going back into, you know, Scareclaw Cash Tira days and Fenrir, Samurai Destroy still has to conclude its battle. So this is a very cinematic battle. You know, the slash of a 2 skilled samurai, it just makes it so that, you know, time basically stands still. This is that in anime card form. So the Fadra gets to summon back the Chandra, and because everything's happening within this battle, because the battle still needs to conclude, the Samurai Destroyer still has to go through battle step before damage calculation, end of damage step. All that still needs to be performed, and all that is still considered as part of the battling of the Samurai Destroyer. So the moment it declares the attack, you're basically locked out of that entire phase. While it is locked out, everything that you do in between is still considered that battling. So Fadra into Chandra, and it'll activate its effects, perform a Synchro Summon into Biden Dragon, and into the Biden Dragon, it's going to summon back the Fadra through its own effect, and using the quick effect of the Fadra again, Synchro into Transcendent Dragon, and due to the fact that Samurai Destroyer would be considered the third attack here, the Biden Dragon in the graveyard can activate its quick effect. All these are quick effects so that you can keep on doing it before you hit damage step, and it's going to summon itself back onto the field and also destroying the Nightmare Pain. And due to the fact that Samurai Destroyer is going to continue pushing, and you have 27, 26, and another 3,000 attack, that's usually going to lead to the Tenpai Dragon / OTK against Yubel. And that's how they can take games against Yubel very quickly. Is it very annoying? Yes, because there's another way where you don't get to interact with Tenpai, and they get to just completely take lethal out of thin air. So this is Tenpai Dragon Slash. Ruling number 2, we have level modulations and tuning. That's where we're talking about Tenpai Dragon Genroku this time. On the current field, we have a Pydra and we have a second Kaiman in hand that will be activated right now to add a Genroku into hand. Okay? And on the opposing side of the field, there is a Forbidden Droplet, and on the summon of the Genroku, they choose to make it a level 4. The opponent changed the Droplet because the opponent did not have a response. It immediately just activate the effect of Genroku and switching it out for a different Tenpai Dragon, which is fine. You know, it's their option. Sometimes people forget, and then they send away the Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. And so it's a monster effect, so the Genroku cannot respond, and therefore it negates the Genroku. Player A attempts to perform for Synchro with the Pydra and the Genroku, saying, hey, it's still level 4 since it came out from hand, so I'm going to be synchroing this off into a level 7. Player B says, no, you can't. It's negated, so it's not a tuner, and it's also not level 4. So now it's level 3. All right, so, well, that's their conflict. That's the situation. You're the judge. You come to this table, and what is your answer? You have 5 seconds to answer this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Well, one person is just completely incorrect, and the other person has half of it correct. So half correct is that, yes, this monster does lose its level, the additional level. The Genroku is now level 3, but it's still acting as a tuner. All right, so it is still technically a tuna monster. Go figure. That part is probably the hardest part to understand because, like, oh, isn't it an effect? If you want a reference to something like this, you can look at Infernoble. I blame Infernoble for this. Infernoble Captain Oliver. There's a reference link down in the description. I don't want to spend too long to explain it, but essentially something that changes itself into a tuner or summons itself as a tuner often doesn't actually lose its tuner status even if the effect gets negated. So yeah, that's beyond me. I can't really explain this. Maybe someone can, or it's just one of those things. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! It's one of those rules. Okay, so with that, the synchroing is probably illegal because usually a Tenpai Dragon player does not have a level 6 synchro monster in their extra deck, so the synchroing was basically illegal. So you have a level 3 tuner and level 3 dragon. Doesn't really add up to much. You're likely just gonna link it off into Heretic Seals of Heavenly Spheres instead. Okay, so yeah, that can actually stun out someone's turn, so that's pretty brutal. Now, there's just additional information that I want to give to you guys because you're going to be facing off against like White Woods or White Forest monsters and Centurion. So for Trudea, somehow, because Trudea, when it summons itself from the back row as a continuous trap, pushes itself onto the field. You know, it's a continuous trap, now it's not. It can change its level to level 8. And when it changes its level to 8 and it wants to push itself back into the spell and trap zone and you negate it with an imperm, for instance, it keeps its levels. Why is that, you might be wondering? Why is Trudea different from Genroku? Why does Genroku lose its level? Well, Genroku is a monster that has a self-applied effect, and therefore when you negate it, it kind of goes away. Whereas this one, it summoned itself from a trap card. So it was a trap effect. It was a continuous trap effect, because you remember that the Centurion monsters in the spawn trap zone often are continuous trap monsters, and they push themselves out. That was a trap effect. The droplet will not negate a trap effect. and therefore that level just remains as 8. It's really confusing to some people, but this is something that does come up, and therefore they can still synchro into the 10, the 12. It's something that they have available at their arsenal, so you could be burning a hand trap, a negation, on something that you really just can't even stop. So there are limitations there. So that's one. And one final point on Tenpai, I think this is probably one of the more important points when it comes to illegal triggers. Black Rose Dragon and Trident Dragon. Both of these monsters have when you can triggers. I have seen so many people just scoop it up or just play into these illegal plays. So opponent gets shifted, and then there's like 2 monsters on the field, and they're attempting to make Black Rose. They activate their first monster in the battle phase, and then you chain like an imperm, and then they chain the second one to go into Black Rose. They blow up your entire board, and the entire board gets banished because you're under shifter. That shouldn't happen. That is illegal because the chain link 3 is the card that summoned out Black Rose, and since it's when you can, it can only trigger when it is chain link 1. That's the limitation. And so Black Rose technically can't blow up the board, so they'll just be summoning out for free. If your opponent is under Pot of Prosperity, if they're under Pot of Prosperity, and then they try to use Trident Dragon to perform an OTK, if you force them to go, Fadra Chainlink 1, they have to synchro with the Biden Dragon, and then you attempt to negate that Fadra, and then they go Pydra Chainlink 3. In that particular instance, Pydra would summon out the Trident Dragon, and then the rest of it would play out, and therefore the Trident Dragon does not get to destroy the field spell to do a massive damage, right? It doesn't even get the pop, doesn't even get the extra attack. That's actually something that has occurred time and time again because people don't know the when you can rules or haven't read the cards themselves. And I asked even people recently, and even they completely forgot. I feel like a lot of people actually have been losing games to Tenpai without realizing that they actually couldn't have gotten OTK'd, and I want to drill that into your head so that you guys don't get screwed by Tenpai this upcoming YCS. Ruling number 3. This time we're looking into Phantom Yubel. It feels like every single ruling is targeting against Tenpai because there's also very little you can do against them, so you want to make sure that you're playing everything correctly. But Phantom and Yubel versus Sangan Summoning. This is unaffected monsters versus effect changers. So on this current field, there is a Phantom and Yubel and there is a Sangan Summoning on the opposing side, making it so that most of the Fire Dragon monsters, they are unaffected by opponent's activated effects. So player B summons out the Pydra, attempts to activate its effect, but it is met with the Phantom of Yubel chaining, tributing itself into the graveyard and changing its effect. And player A says that, hey, I changed its effect, so now I get to destroy Yubel out of my deck. But player B is like, oh no, I got Sangan Summoning on the field. It is unaffected by your monster effect, and this is an effect that you activated, so I'm not going to be affected. That's the conflict. What's your ruling here? You have 5 seconds. Just 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. The answer is simple. Or rather, it's actually not as obvious, but changing a monster's effect does not affect the monster. So technically, the effect can still get changed. Yeah, that's the ruling. So this is like one of the odd things that bypass unaffected monsters. You're not affecting the monster, you're affecting the effect, which is a little bit of a weirder context, but essentially, yeah, that Pydra's effect is now blowing up a Yubel monster. So you're still resolving your effect, it's just that your effect got changed. Yeah, very bizarre. It's not affecting the monster, it's affecting the effect per se, and the Yubel will be destroyed from deck. So that Spirit of Yubel will be destroyed, and then they're going to lead into the combo. Essentially, that's the kind of a loophole against the monsters that are unaffected by activated effects. Ruling number 4, Phantom Yubel versus Skill Drain. So what happens when Phantom Yubel, is activated under a Skill Drain on board? It's actually very neat. So on the field, we have Phantom Yubel versus, of course, Guardian Chimera, a Fenrir, and also a Magnum the Reliever. And on the Yubel side, we have Phantom Yubel, we have a set card, which is Skill Drain, and there is a Nightmare Pain. It sure looks really bad because if you swing everything into this monster, it's going to end up, ending the Chimera player's life points. However, now upon attack declaration of the Fenrir, they're going to activate the effect of Fenrir and target Phantom of Yubel, forcing the activation of that card and leading it for it to be destroyed, which is fine because that's going to summon a Yubel, and that's going to be very problematic as well because Nightmare Pain's on the field. So Chainlink 2, Phantom of Yubel. Chainlink 3, however, is going to be the Magnum the Reliever. Just assume that there is a polymerization to be banished or a fusion spell to be banished, and they're going to use that to get rid of the Nightmare Pain. Therefore, they are not going to be stuck under the battle phase. They're going to be able to get themselves out. However, Chainlink 4 Skill Drain gets activated. And because Skill Drain got activated, the effect of Magnum the Reliever also gets negated. So what happens on this resolution? Alright, so I already gave you part 1, which is the Magnum the Reliever is getting negated. So what happens during the resolution? You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. And so this is a very, very significant misplay for the Yubel player. So let's actually resolve this chain. Magnum the Reliever gets negated by Skill Drain. Okay. And so Magnum the Reliever cannot destroy the Nightmare Pain. Chainlink 3 is going to be Magnum the Reliever. Chainlink 2 is Phantom of Yubel, changing the effect of Kashtira Fenrir, and Chainlink 1 is going to be Kashtira Fenrir's effect that is changed, but also negated by Skill Drain. So, in other words, no monster is going to be destroyed from the Yubel player's deck because that effect got negated by Skill Drain, and therefore there is now a replay. And the replay is Fenrir attacks, Magnum the Reliever attacks, and Guardian Chimera attacks for game. Note that if Phantom of Yubel is activating its effect, they have to be very careful that if that monster that they're changing the effect of also gets their effect negated, they do not get that destruction from the deck for another Yubel monster. That is a very key thing here. I've seen people like, oh, I'll just destroy and now you have to OTK yourself. Oh, GG, too bad, right? But this is not the case. This is like a self-TK on the Yubel side because it doesn't negate the monster effect. It just changes it. But because the change effect is negated by Skill Drain, you don't get the effect either way. So that is something that does come up and people kind of overlook it. And shout outs to Riley for kind of bringing that up because that was a really cool ruling to note that, hey, yeah, changing the effect does not equate to negation. And that's it for this ruling video. Hopefully I loaded you guys with more ruling arsenal so that if you're going to be judging an event or, playing an event, at least you'll be playing with, the utmost integrity for that event. And thank you to the sponsor of today's videos, Factor 75. And save some time, on meal planning, less time in the kitchen, more time to spend for the rest of the summer. Check them out in the link in the description. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully a ban list comes out, and I'll see you all in the next one.